What's up, guys? You're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. Guys, we have another podcast interview for you today. I'm here with Mitchell Salas. Mitchell, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the podcast.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, Andy. Happy to be here.
Mitchell has been a loyal Instagram follower of mine for a while now. Do you remember exactly, Mitchell, like when you stumbled upon my Instagram account?
Yeah, it was actually 2022. I had moved to Miami and I was just making the drive back because I spent only a year there. And on the way back, I had just launched my product and I was like, I need something to listen to on this, like, because I made the drive from Miami to California. And I was like, I need something to listen to related to Amazon. And I searched up Amazon on Spotify and there you were. So I was hooked. I think I was hooked because the episodes are short. And so it was like low commitment and like you got me hooked with the first one. And I just like kept on going and I just binged it.
I'm trying to remember the exact time of year when I think you first messaged me, but I guess that's not important. I know that we've gone back and forth and had ongoing conversations, kind of since that time, bouncing ideas, talking about stuff. So I was excited to get you on the podcast so all the podcast listeners could kind of hear some of the stuff that we've been talking about all this time. And I'll say this too, guys, before we kind of dive in deep to Mitchell's story and everything, is you're also sharing a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff on your Instagram. I've noticed that following you on Instagram, you've been kind of sharing sneak peeks and like stuff you're working on for your brand. And we're going to get into that because I think a lot of people have the doubt that, they can't do this business with a full-time job, or they don't know how to, kind of manage their time with this and whatnot. So we'll get into that in just a second. But I want to start off by just asking you, how did you get into this? Like, what was that moment in time where you're like, I want to start a business, and then why starting a brand on Amazon?
So I've actually always had that kind of entrepreneurial bug ever since I graduated college in 2017. I just always knew in the back of my mind that I was not going to do like the corporate job for forever. Like I was cool with doing it for a short period of time, but I knew that I wasn't gonna do it forever. And I think a lot of that was driven by like my parents and just like wanting to give back to them. My parents immigrated from Mexico. They worked pretty tough jobs like their entire life, still do. And so I think a lot of that is driven by like just wanting to give back to them. And then also just for myself, right? Just to be able to build something for myself, give to other people. And then like why Amazon specifically? I think if I'm being honest, like a lot of it was just like stuff that I saw on my social media, right? Like you see like people flaunting their numbers and stuff. I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Like it doesn't seem that difficult. And to be honest, it was like a little bit, I do feel like I got like a little bit tricked into it in a way. Like I think if I knew how hard it actually was going to be, maybe I wouldn't have taken that first step. So like in a sense, like it was maybe a little bit good. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed I like the remote aspect of it. I don't like being, tied to a specific location. So I like that I could do it remotely. And I just like the idea of like having a physical product that I created and that like people out there in the world are using. And then, yeah, it just didn't seem that difficult. Like we're not building software here, right? Like we're not building some crazy application. Like it's a product, you can go out there and get a designer. Like the steps seemed pretty simple. So yeah, I just decided to take a stab at it.
From what I've noticed too, I'm just going to add kind of my opinion on this same matter too, of kind of why I think Amazon e-commerce is a great business model for so many people is, you said it really well, right? Like it seemed like something that you could do, seemed like something that could be fulfilling. It wasn't creating software, like nothing's too crazy. I think about all the different online business models and I've done a whole bunch of them, and there's some that I still currently do. Like for example, I do the social media content creation online business model too, where I sell a course or coaching, and I have that business model along with our physical product brand, our e-commerce brand that we sell on Amazon. And I've learned like what it takes to be successful in all these different business models, including all the ones that I failed in the past, and why I think Amazon FBA, e-commerce brand is such a good business model for so many people. Like you said, it doesn't require a ridiculous amount of capital to start. Like, yeah, you're going to probably want a good $10,000 or more. The more the merrier, right? The more it gives you more opportunities to do things. But compare that to like, I don't know, hiring a team of developers to develop an app. And then when you develop an app or a software, the marketing budget on that is like off the charts. Like you're spending, all those companies, let's be honest, most of them are raising venture capital because it requires hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in marketing to get a SaaS company off the ground. So that's like, that is a daunting endeavor. You're like, pitching and slide decks, and you got to know the right people. That's a whole nother world. And then you think about the creator space, like, okay, I'm going to be a TikToker, YouTuber, podcaster, like that type of thing. And I'm in that world right now. That is a lot of work. Like, don't get me wrong, Amazon can be a lot of work, especially in the beginning, like when you're first kind of getting it off the ground. But once it's up and running and churning, like I think about our brand, I still to this day, I tell people like, guys, I work literally an hour or two a week on our brand. Like it's not that hard to manage versus doing the podcasting, the social media content. That is like grinding away. You're spending so much money. I've told people I've spent almost $300,000 just on my personal brand, on software and advertising and tools and equipment. So I love e-commerce for that reason. You don't got to put your face out there. You don't got to sit there and record content and post it. I mean, obviously for your brand, that can help, but it's just a really good, solid business model for so many people out there. And I truly think that there's still a lot of potential there. Now you do have to be a lot better than 2017. Like you just got to be better, execute better, but it's still a great opportunity for so many people. So walk us through, if you can, Mitchell, walk us through maybe that beginning journey. Maybe more specifically, if you could give us kind of like a timeline of events. Just because I think people listening, they're curious. They ask all the time, like, how long does this take to start? Like, how long is this going to take to get this off the ground? How much time am I going to have to spend on this? Can you give us just kind of a rough time frame of that startup process for you?
Yeah. So I started like the end of 2021. And to be honest, like when I first started, I wasn't very consistent with it. So it did take me a little bit longer than it should have. But I think 2022 is like when I really like stuck to it and did it most days. And it probably took me like 10 months to actually launch the product. After I launched it, so that was like October 2022. So I'm coming up on a full year here now of selling. So yeah, I launched in late October, early November of 2022. And yeah, I've been selling for a year now. But yeah, the initial kind of like getting the product launched, like, man, that's so much effort, man. And especially because like you're doing this like day in and day out and you're obviously not seeing any results. So it's like super hard to just like keep sticking with it. And yeah, I mean, I've made like ton of mistakes and like, with sourcing, communicating with suppliers, getting incorrect inventory, changing my brand after like inventory was already created. I mean, a lot of mistakes, and it took a lot of time and I spent a lot of money, but yeah, it took like about like 10, 11 months.
For that specific period, like just the startup before actually launching, that 10 months.
Yeah.
If you could go back and do it again, what is like the core thing that you would have done differently?
Oh man, I think I'd probably back up and start with the product, and not because I chose the wrong product, but I could have made the product better. And actually just listened to your podcast this morning about like providing value. And so like my product, I guess, just to put that out there, is a bundle, which is, it's used to make nut milk. So any type of like homemade like almond milk or cashew milk, if you want to make that at home. So it comes with what's called like a nut milk bag, which is like another words for like a cheesecloth. And so you use it to like strain your own milk. And then it comes with 2 bottles and like a funnel to transfer the milk. And so it's like this little like bundle, right? And my main differentiator was that it was a bundle. Like everyone sold the bags independently, everyone sold the bottles independently, but no one sold this like as a kit. And I thought that would be a pretty cool thing, especially for people that were like just starting on like doing this at home for themselves for the first time. And so that was my main thing, but I could have made like the actual like product itself better rather than just like putting things together. And so I think that was probably like, if I had to do it all over again, that probably what I would do differently. And I'm still plan on improving that. So, and then the other thing is just like not ordering like a lot of inventory until like you're like really sure that like like this is the final thing, whether that's like you're sure on the logo, you're sure on the design, because I spent a few $1,000s like ordering inventory that I like didn't end up using. So just being like really sure that like your final product is your final product before you kind of go all in on that first order.
I like that you gave a little shout out there to the episode today. Obviously this episode that you guys are listening to right now is going out in the future, but the episode that just came out today about what value are you providing.
Yeah.
It's such an important factor, especially now. Like if I was recording this episode back in 2017, I probably wouldn't even record this episode. I'd be like, yeah, go find a product that has, solid numbers and just order it and sell it. Like, don't even worry about making it super different and unique and quality, because in 2017, that didn't matter. But the way it is now, guys, there's more and more people selling. Everything gets more competitive with time, right? And so it just means you have to be better. And the conversation that I have with people now when it comes to developing a product or even budget, I mean, those kind of go hand in hand because the more differentiation, the more product development you're doing, the more it's going to cost you. Like if you're doing a whole bunch of custom components and things, you're going to have some mold costs, or even just in the development itself, like the engineer drawings, like you're going to go pay someone to draw it up and, do all that, more sampling. It's just going to be more expensive to start up. But again, the conversation that I'm trying to have more with people is you have to think about this business from the long term. You have to think about this business, not like 2 months from now, but you have to think 2 years from now. And differentiating, I mean, I'm really vibing with what you said about you wish you would have maybe focused a little bit more on the product development side of things from the get-go. Because in the beginning, maybe that cost you an extra, let's just say $5,000 in product development and some mold costs. An extra $5,000 up front when you guys are first starting your business. If I come to you and say you should spend another $5,000 than what you already have budgeted, you're gonna say that's crazy, Andy. Like that's crazy. That's way too risky. That's way too risky. Like what if it fails? Then I'm out another 5K. But in 2023 Amazon, and I'm gonna say this for 2024, 2025, and beyond. You hear that kind of quote out there. I think it's like fortune favors the bold. I think it's something like that. It may be like a commercial. I've heard it somewhere. Anyways, I like the saying. If you want to have different results than what everyone else is having, you have to be willing to do things differently or do things better. And that's going to require more risk, more reward. So spending an extra $5,000 up front to develop a better product, that might sound super risky. Like crap, I don't want to lose 5K if this product doesn't work out. But a year from now, 2 years from now, that product is going to be that much better than everyone else that's just selling what they found on Alibaba. You're going to make that $5,000 back in profit 10, 20 times that amount. Like it's so hard to see when you're starting like, oh, $5,000 investment to make this really sweet product that I know I should make, but I don't want to spend that money. When you're making 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand profit every single month, 5 grand is nothing.
Yep.
Yourself 2 years in the future is like yelling at you. Like, what's that movie? Gosh, is it Interstellar? Is that the movie where Matthew McConaughey's like looking behind the wall? He's like yelling at his like past future self. He's like saying, no, don't do it. I just think about that movie and I'm like, yourself 2 years from now is yelling at yourself through this like imaginary glass saying, spend the money now. I promise you're going to make so much more money 2 years from now. But it's hard to see and it's risky. But you got, guys, if you really want to see that much better results a year, 2 years from now, you got to be willing to take the risks. The people who are willing to take the risks are the people who reap the bigger rewards. Let's talk now, Mitchell, about since launch, right? So you've been selling, you're coming up on a year, right? Roughly.
Yep.
What has that journey been like? And if you're comfortable sharing, maybe you could share like kind of how your growth has gone or any challenges that you faced during kind of this first year of selling.
Yeah, so I will say the growth has been a little bit stagnant. So some of the bigger challenges in my first year are keeping inventory. Like, everyone struggles with that, right? Managing like inventory, but then also PPC spend. So when I first launched my product, I had no idea what I was doing with PPC spend. And I was just spending. Like I just heard people saying like, you got to spend, like, especially during the honeymoon period. So, I was just spending, which it is fine to a certain extent, but you also have to like monitor and, see like what's working and what's not. I was just kind of like throwing money at it and like not really monitoring and seeing kind of like what was giving me results and what wasn't. And I thought that losing a lot of money up front was normal. And I know it's normal to lose a little bit, but I was losing a lot up front and I was getting a lot of sales. Like I would get like 15, 20, which to me was a lot when you're first launching. If you're getting 20 sales, that felt like a lot. But at the end of the day, I was losing like $100 or like 150, and the next day was like 75, 80. And so, by the end of it, I was like having to come out of pocket again for my next inventory. And I kept doing that. I did that like 2 or 3 times. And eventually I was like, something's like off here. So I ended up raising my price, dropping my PPC spend, and then things started to like balance out. And so after I did that, I got to a point where I was breaking even on some days and actually like even a little bit profitable on some days. And after that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, like we got something here, right? This is actually starting to work. And so I had some profitable days. And then I got to a point where I was making like $80 a day, like after PPC spend. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like fantastic. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like I figured it out. And then I ran out of inventory. And then when I restocked, I couldn't get back to that. Like I was, again, like now I'm like back to the breaking even point and I'm just like trying to figure it out, right? So yeah, I guess like to answer your question, that some of the most challenging stuff that first year or this first year has been like keeping inventory in stock and then managing PPC spend.
had a good conversation last Friday with another seller, right? Another student of mine, another seller. And I asked them actually, it was funny. We were actually doing a podcast interview. And after the interview ended, I asked them, I just said, hey, thanks for hopping on to do an interview with me. Is there anything I can help you with or any questions I can maybe answer for you really quickly? While they're on the call with me. And the question of cash flow came up in the same situation, right? There's so many people in the same situation as you, Mitchell, where they've launched their product, they've started to get some sales. And I'll tell you what, guys, like those first few sales, those are like the most impactful sales you'll ever have. I still tell people like those first like 5 sales are like, I just got 10 sales in a day. That's way more exciting than when you hit 200 sales in a day. It's just something about like, holy cow, like a stranger bought this thing that I put on the internet. Like it's so crazy to think about. But then after that moment like comes and passes, now you have that like, oh crap moment of, okay, people are actually buying this. So that's good. And I'm getting good reviews, but I'm not making any money. So now it's like, okay, the first big hurdle is done with as far as you put something out there that people actually want to buy. And assuming you're getting good, solid 5-star reviews, people like. So now it's this game of, okay, how do I turn this into a consistent income, like profit? Not like you said, not like me coming out of pocket every month to like cover my ad costs and cover all the Amazon fees. Cause I'll tell you what, like it's depressing when you're getting 10 sales a day, 15 sales a day. And then every 2 weeks, Amazon goes big red negative in your account is like minus $530. Like what the crap, Amazon, I sold 85 units and now you're taking more money from me. That's a frustrating place to be. And I get that. And so many people, message me about it. They'll be like, Andy, like I'm selling, but like I keep owing Amazon money. I was actually in the same scenario with my business partner of my second brand. Okay. And the second brand that I'm partnered with is like still in the small startup phase, right? Like less than $10,000 a month in sales. In fact, we're almost about to hit $10,000 a month in sales. Only been selling for less than 2 years, 5 SKUs, right? So smaller brand. Same sort of scenario is happening when I partnered with him. It's like, hey, I'm getting sales. I got great reviews, but Amazon keeps taking money out of my account every month. What do we do about this? And it comes down to 2 things, marketing and SKUs. Now there's what I say, Mitchell, you know this. I preach more marketing, more SKUs. If you want to increase your revenue and your profit and everything, you need to sell more products and you need more marketing, more ad spend. You have to be able to scale that up. But with the more SKUs comes the more inventory. I'm going to like put those in together. When I say more marketing, more SKUs, I'm talking about more marketing, more inventory and new products. Don't even think about the next product until you get a grip on the inventory of your first product. So it really comes down to staying in stock. If you keep going out of stock and you're out of stock for 2 weeks, out of stock for a month, you're never going to gain any momentum. Like you're never going to gain any consistency. It's kind of the same way with like sports. I mean, I talk sports all the time on the podcast, right? But it's the same way with like any sport. It could be golf. It could be tennis, football, basketball, baseball. It doesn't matter. If you're a professional athlete and you're only going out there, like let's say you're a professional golfer. If you're only going out there and you're golfing once every 3 months, not going to be the most consistent golfer. Your putting game is going to be a little off, right? But if you're like golfing every weekend consistently, it's going to be a lot easier to like stay in the groove and like get better and be consistent. It's the same thing with your product. It's going to perform better on Amazon. But then you also are going to manage your business better. You're going to manage your inventory better. You're going to manage your ads better because it's the same thing with your ads. Like if you have inventory and your ads are like, okay, my ads are working, they're performing. And all of a sudden it's like, boom, out of stock for 3 weeks. Now all the campaigns are like, and the algorithm's like, what's going on here? Now we're out of stock. Now there's eyeballs that you were grabbing eyeballs, right? You're spending money on ads. You were getting impressions and clicks. Now that's all gone. The algorithm's like, okay, well now I got to give these eyeballs to other sellers, right? It's got to figure out where am I going to distribute all these eyeballs now? And then you're like, hey, I'm back. Like give me my eyeballs back. And now the algorithm's like, but I'm giving it to these other brands now. And now it's like, okay, starting to give it back to you. So there's that. It's like learning process again for the algorithm, and you can get back. Like I tell this to everyone, stocking out, it's not the worst thing in the world that could happen, but it's going to take some time to get back to where you were. Just like if you're a golfer and you haven't golfed for 3 months, it's going to take you a few rounds of golf before you find your swing again, right? Get back in that groove. So being able to manage your cash flow is going to be crucial. So you're going to get to that tipping point. And I say this, and I've said this so many times to other people, you can get to that tipping point where, it's really going to take a sizable investment to get over the hump.
Yep.
And that's when I say, once you've proven your product in the market, got a bunch of good reviews, right? Go out, go find some outside funding. Go find some outside funding, get a business line of credit, go get 20, 30, 40 grand, whatever you need. Order enough inventory where you're like, we're not selling out ever again. Like we are not going to sell out. Now you can get your ad spend up. You can start to optimize your campaigns again. And that's when you really start to get profitable. Like that, I promise you guys, that is the tipping point to getting profitable. Once you get to like, you start to creep up there, you'll feel feel it. It's like $7,000 to $10,000 a month in revenue where you're like, I just need more inventory. Like I just don't have the inventory. I can't scale my ads because I don't have the inventory. You go order a ton of inventory, you increase your ad spend just a little bit, and then you just optimize that up. And now you really like, okay, now we're getting paid. Now we're getting paid by Amazon. I'm consistent. The algorithm's happy. Inventory's happy. So that's just a piece of advice that I'd give you guys. You know, obviously for you too, Mitchell, like similar situation is you find that sweet spot where you feel comfortable that your product has been proven in the market. Now you just got to find that cash flow game where you're able to keep your inventory in stock, keep your ads going, and then you can slowly start to optimize those campaigns, get profitable. Your organic ranking will stay consistent because you got in stock, right? It all like kind of goes together, but I think it does all kind of stem from that cash flow.
Yeah, and I agree. That was another challenge that I forgot to mention. But yeah, the cash flow is another challenge, especially because Amazon always holds that reserve balance. And it's so frustrating because you could be making sales or even just like breaking even like I am. And they're, you know, at the end of the pay period, it's like, yeah, we're holding on to $2,000. And it's like, dude, like I need that to order some more inventory. But I agree. Like I actually like went and got some outside funding from my siblings to order more inventory because I was like, I'm not running out of stock anymore. Like I've proven the product, it's selling, it's doing well. I just need to like stay in stock. So I have a bunch of inventory right now. I promise myself I'm never running out again.
That's literally the same thing that we said too. Now, I hate to break it to you,
I'm gonna
but
run
you
out.
probably you will probably sell out again. But it's definitely not going to be as painful. Like it's definitely not going to be as painful, especially when you have more SKUs too. And speaking of that, what would you say, Mitchell, are your plans for the near future of your brand? Like where do you see your brand going over the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, definitely more SKUs. So right now I only have one variation. And I guess like my next short-term goal, going back to like the mold cost you were talking about earlier, 100% agree with that because my next step now is actually I'm going to invest in the mold cost to make the product a little bit better. And this is based off like feedback that I've received in reviews and kind of something I like knew up front too, but I just like thought like, nah, I don't need to do it. So I'm going to improve the product, invest in a mold cost. And then after that, I'm just going to like continue to add variations to the product and then just like release new product lines. So kind of like you said, right? Like more SKUs and more marketing. And I think one of the reasons I haven't gone kind of like full force into social media side of marketing is because I don't know that I feel fully confident in the product yet. And so I feel that like once I like do the mold, improve the product, then I can kind of like really go hard in it and like feel confident, work with influencers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like my next step here as soon as I work that out with the manufacturer.
Yeah, that's smart. I like that for sure. If you can improve the product and you feel like, hey, there's room for improvement with the product. And if it's, you know, a few $1,000s of a mold or something to make a tweak here or there, that in the long run, in my opinion, is going to be money way better spent than if you were to spend an extra $2,000 on marketing.
Right.
I can't remember who said this. I was listening to a businessy podcast. I don't even remember which one it was, but the guy on the podcast was saying something too, where he was like, yeah, I review people's businesses and all of them, everyone that comes to me is like, oh, I think it was Alex Hormozy, because that's who I've been listening to like on repeat lately. And he was saying, you know, this guy comes to him and he's like, Alex, I need you to fix my business. I need a better marketing strategy. My marketing is just like, it's not performing good. Like I'm not getting, you know, the results that I want from my social media and my advertising and whatnot. And Alex was like, okay, let me see like your offer, your product, right? And the example he uses is a sandwich. And he just said, more money on marketing is not going to fix your problems. You have a crappy sandwich. Like you throwing more money or time right into social media content and ads and everything, thinking, oh, that's my big issue. If you're selling a crappy sandwich, you don't want anyone else to know about your sandwich. Like stop spreading the word, because you're just hurting yourself by telling everyone like, hey, everyone, I sell a crappy sandwich.
Right.
That's just hurting your brand in the long run. So the example he said is similar to what you're doing, right, Mitchell? Is focus on the sandwich. Focus on the sandwich. Once your sandwich is like, dang, this is a good sandwich, everything else is going to be so much easier. Social media marketing is going to be easier. Ads are going to be easier. Getting reviews is going to be easier because you actually have a good sandwich that people want to talk about and share and, you know, leave a review for. So fix the sandwich first, guys, if you have a crappy sandwich, and all the other elements are going to get a whole lot easier. Mitchell, you said something too at the beginning. I'm going back to the beginning now. I'm going back to the beginning to go to the end. You said in the beginning, you know, when you were talking about how you got into Amazon FBA, you know, you saw it on social media and you're like, hey, you know, I feel like I could do this. But you also said, in a way, you almost felt like you got tricked into doing it because, you know, so many people are like, oh, look how much money I'm making from Amazon. And they make it like sound so chill and so easy. And then you do it and you're like, crap, this is like harder than I thought it was going to be. To someone who was in that situation, same situation as you were, right? When you were scrolling on social media, seeing all these ads and things about how glorious and amazing it is, and then doing it and knowing like, dang, I feel like I kind of got tricked into it. But at the same time, like you're not that mad because it's what pushed you into actually taking action. What advice would you give to someone that's in those same shoes where they're scrolling social media? They haven't started. They're seeing all these ads. They're like, oh, this sounds amazing, but they haven't started yet for whatever reason. What advice would you give them to first, I guess, understand the realistic expectations for this business, but also to say, hey, despite those expectations, I think it's worth it to give it a try?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely worth it. And I'll just say like, because like nothing is easy. I mean, like I have this like problem of always getting shiny object syndrome, and like Amazon wasn't the first thing I like try to take a stab at. I didn't really get far into like the other kind of business ventures that I dabbled in, but nothing's going to be easy. And every time you're kind of like when you're like in the midst of it and you're like struggling through something, you know, whether it's like product research or whatever it is, it's always easy to look at another business and be like, wow, that looks way easier and like way more chill, and like I should have done that. It's like, no, like everything is going to be like really difficult. So just like I always tell myself, like you can't fail if you don't give up. Like the only way I lose at this point is if I give up. Like, you know, like I was talking about my product, right? I could just call it quits and say like, you know, the product wasn't that good, or I can like go out and get them all costs and like continue iterating, right? Or release a new product line, whatever it might be. But you just have to like stick with it, and that's going to be with anything, right? You know, after you get those like initial reps in, I've been doing it for a year. If I were to switch now and like go into something else that looks better and cooler, like I'm starting from ground zero again. Whereas like if I stick with this, even though like let's just say like I failed the first year, like I'm starting from experience now, like rather than starting from zero. So you're much further ahead. So yeah, I would just say like just stick with it. Like you're gonna figure it out as long as you don't give up.
Gosh, I love that so much. I've told the story a few times, I feel like, of my YouTube journey where back in 2017, I told my wife, I still remember this. We were living at my parents' house. Told my wife, I said, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to do it for 3 to 5 years. And it does not matter if I make $1, but I told her, I said, I promise you I will make money from this. Cause she kind of laughed at me. She was like, oh my gosh, you're going to be a YouTuber. Like, come on. I said, I'm going to do it for 3 to 5 years. And I made this inner commitment to myself. Like, I'm going to do it. I don't care how many views, how many subscribers, or if I'm getting paid. Don't care. I'm going to do it for 3 to 5 years. And I promised my wife I will make money. And those two promises, the one to myself that I wouldn't give up, and the one to her that I would make money, to hold myself accountable to like someone else, right? Those two commitments were so powerful because I didn't want to quit on myself and I didn't want to quit on my wife. And that first year sucked. I posted 3 videos a week for 365 days and I had 100 subscribers. I wasn't making $1. Second year, I think I crossed 1,000 subscribers my second year, and I was able to qualify for AdSense, where it's like, hey, you can get paid for YouTube videos. I was making like $3 a month. 2 years, guys, of posting videos, hundreds of videos.
Crazy.
Then it was in year 3, year 4, it's like, whoa, I made $200 this month. Then in year 3, year 4, I was like, whoa, I made $3,000 this month. Whoa, I had a video get 1 million views. But that wasn't until year 3, 4, 5, where it's like, holy cow, I made $40,000, $60,000 this year just from my YouTube videos. And those first 2-3 years, it was just a grind. So super powerful, guys. Just commit to it, commit to the process. And seriously, like Mitchell said, like the only way you truly fail is when you quit. The day that you're like, I'm done, I quit. Okay, now you failed. Now you can say, I failed in that business. But if you haven't quit yet and you're still grinding and working on it, you have not failed.
Right.
You have not failed. You have learned. You have learned a lot. You've gained a lot of skills, a lot of experience. And now it's just a matter of just, finding that groove, tweaking, testing until you find, that groove that works. Mitchell, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by the podcast today. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. And I love following your journey. Like I said, I love seeing your behind the scenes on what you're doing to work on your business. Yeah, best of luck to you moving forward.
Thanks, Andy. And I appreciate all you do for everyone that's, starting on this journey. Your content is the best. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. That means a lot. All right, guys, you're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. We'll see you in the next episode.